And there's what I'm after. I gotta spray all this out. Hey everyone, come along with me today as we transplant this Monstera Thai Constellation into LECA Perlite. Some of the longtime viewers might know of this mother Thai Constellation we have had for about 5 or 6 years now. I believe it's 5 years, since 2018. This plant started just from tissue culture, believe it or not, and it is now humongous. And we've done the LECA Bubbler with this plant, where we have our 12-inch biopot that we sealed off and then added in some air stones. And then after that, I drilled the bottom of this pot to make it a flood and drain system where the plant was sitting in this tray being fed once a week with water. But now it's really outgrown this tray and I need more of a flat canopy. So I'm gonna be transitioning this plant to be domesticated, if you will, and to be taken home. So I'm gonna transplant it into something that's easier to use. And really, I haven't found anything that beats this medium, including aeroid mix. It's still my favorite, especially for Monstera, and that is the LECA Perlite mix. It's that 50-50 mix, and we're gonna go through and clean up all these roots. Got some root rot there, but nothing too bad. But I'm gonna show you my process of cleaning this off, show you how you can convert these plants between LECA and into Perlite or from aeroid mix, but show you the whole process and how I do it. So a hose is usually my primary tool when I'm starting to clean off the root system. As I said, there's a little bit of black pieces in here, which indicates root rot, but it's very common for an older Monstera to have some parts of the roots dying off, especially a Monstera Thai Constellation. So the first thing to do is just rinse off the roots on a really strong setting with a garden hose. So you can see in the inner part there's like a big clump of black brown area in through there. So I'm gonna spray that off. And don't be afraid to pull the roots apart, almost like you're untangling hair. And if you trim off the little chunks of roots, don't be nervous about that. It's really common and usually won't hurt Monstera at all. And there's what I'm after. I gotta spray all this out. The company sent me these plasticized LECA substitutes. They're not porous, so they didn't allow the roots to attach to them, and they became something where I have to sort through and actually throw them away, which kind of sucks. It's a great idea because it's recycled plastic, but it just didn't work out well for the plants. Plants really like rocks and things that are porous to latch onto since they have little micro hairs. I'm finding a root way up in there. Just peel it out, and if it comes off, it's not a big deal. There's so many roots on this plant, and again, it doesn't get affected by root pruning. Just untangle them down. Make sure you can see air through. Make sure you can see the wall on the other side, because if you don't, that will cause little areas of rot. They're just little anaerobic zones in your root mass. Just little areas that don't have oxygen, and that creates the perfect opportunity for something to come in and start consuming the dying plant matter or root matter. It's one of my favorite things about variegated Monstera is actually the roots having variegation in them. Look at this huge aerial root. You can actually see the variegation inside of the root and the striping, which is really cool. So here we have the plant so far. Just to give you a size reference, it is massive, probably 4 or 5 feet tall, and with the roots, I mean the roots at least are 3 feet long. But this is the beauty of LECA, and LECA Perlite really does the same. It's just I can convert it to a hand-watered system instead of on a pumped system. Look at how much better the roots look now. But to give you a little bit of the age of this plant, all the different nodes here, all the different times we cut this plant, it's given us probably 10 or 15 different cuttings or so. And the thing that everyone talks about on variegated Monstera, in the borsigiana versus deliciosa, this is a wing geniculum. So that is supposed to be the true indicator of a deliciosa instead of a borsigiana. Alongside obviously the larger leaves and these very inner fenestrations, essentially like a secondary inner fenestration along the very inside of this leaf. But it's a beautiful plant, and I'm happy to be able to take it home for a little and kind of retire her a little bit. Now that the price of Thai Constellation has gone down, these plants don't fetch as much as they once used to, but it's a beautiful plant. So just to test, this is always a good thing to do. I've got my 3% hydrogen peroxide, and I'm just going to pour it over a little bit of the brown spots to make sure I don't see a lot of fuzzing up. You're looking for bubbling, and that's the oxidation happening. You can also usually hear it, but I'm not seeing anything. I'm pouring into the central part of the root system, not seeing any issues there. And of course, after I do this, because this is pretty strong, I will rinse it off. But this is just a test to look for root rot. So that's a bit of a test you can do for root rot to check for it. So we're good to go. So I cleaned out my pot, same pot again. I just have holes in the bottom of it. This is a 12-inch BioPot. We 3D print here. And I'm going to get this big old Monstera down into this pot because I'm gonna fill it back in with a mix of LECA and Perlite. Mix it about 50-50, but the way at which you mix it and pour it in is very important in the pot. So there we've got it mostly situated. I've got it at the right height I'd like it at. So I think of this process as like a peppering with the perlite. You really want to see like a spattering, almost like snow, of the perlite mixed in here. Perlite does a great job to dry the root zone and avoid that root rot, and that's why I love adding it in there, but it also fills in the big gaps that LECA leaves, so it extends that watering window out to ideally about every 2 weeks. I'll just have to hand water this with our LECA AB or whatever hydroponics solution that you use at home. And this is a reused LECA, has a little bit of roots in here, but since this plant is so old and it's not a baby, I'm not really too concerned about pathogens or pythium or root rot or any issues because it's so old and so resilient. When you have baby plants, just like baby humans or baby animals, you want to take care of them very gently, but with a big mama like this, she's very resilient, so I'll just throw in some bleached but reused LECA with a little bit of roots on them. It's not a big deal. So as you can see down in there, it's a lot of LECA, but some perlite. But I always wanted to make it look like it snowed on top of that LECA, so I'm gonna add in a little more powdering, not to make a thick layer. Don't add like an inch layer, but just powder on top of it like that. And I'll shake it around and then back to a scoop of LECA. And I like to finish the top with just mostly LECA because I think it looks the best. So here we have our finished plant in a really big, beautiful 12-inch pot. You can see how large this plant is, and it's in the LECA Perlite mix, and I'm just going to water it with a little nutrient water now. After I do this watering, I likely won't have to water this plant for about 2 weeks. That's the ideal thing, and the best thing about this system is it's simple. It drains to waste. You can capture the runoff and add it to your other plants. It's just basic hydroponic nutrient, and it's easy to use, and it avoids root rot. That's why I keep coming back to this system, and when I'm growing plants at home, it's the way I do it. I hope you guys enjoyed this week's video. If you did learn something new, please click the like button down below and consider subscribing since we make 2 videos about houseplants every week. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.